You see, for all these years, I've been studying about Iran. This is pre-Ahmadinejad. I've been studying about Russia. This is pre-Putin, who wants to now become the leader of a new, newly formed Soviet Union. I mean, I studied about all these things 10, 15, 20 years ago, and I'm thinking, whoa, this is going to happen? 1993. Remember? You young people, you're exempt from this. I know you were probably still in diapers, but remember 1993, September to be exact, on the White House lawn. There's President William Jefferson Clinton with one Yasser Arafat and one Yitzhak Rabin shaking hands on the White House lawn, initiating what would be known as the Oslo Peace Agreement. My dad, who was alive at the time, very well versed in, the religion of Islam and the workings in the Middle East, I immediately called him and I said, what's happening? Is this is really profound to me to see, because when they're saying peace and security, then sudden destruction comes. And see, I know all these prophecies and I'm connecting all these dots. And my dad said to me, yeah, I believe that we're really close. And that was 1993. He died in 1994, the very next year. I can't call him anymore. That's okay. I can call my Heavenly Father, which I did this last week. Baba, Abba, whoa. And I found myself saying, I need help trying to get past what I call the Rhoda syndrome. You know what the Rhoda syndrome is? Remember when we were studying in the book of Acts? They're praying, they had this prayer meeting, the early church, and they're praying for Peter, who's in prison, to be released. And so what happens? Well, God answers their prayer, and Peter is miraculously released. He escapes, and he comes to where they know, where he knows they're praying for him at this, church prayer meeting. So he shows up at the door and he knocks on the door. The door is locked, of course, because it's an underground church for fear of, persecution. And so, she shows up at the door, knocks on the door. Peter knocks on the door. Rhoda answers the door in the middle of the prayer meeting. I can just picture opening the door. They're praying, God, please release Peter. Please let Peter miraculously, not be beheaded. Like James was. Please, oh God, oh God, oh God. And, opens the door, and then there's Peter, and I can just imagine her shutting the door thinking, wow, for a minute there I thought that was Peter. And she goes back, to share that with the prayer group, and the prayer group goes, what are you talking about? Here we're praying for Peter to be released, and Peter is at the door. Now, what does that mean, and how does that translate into Bible prophecy? We're praying for the Lord's return, aren't we? Lord, come quickly. He's at the door. He's at the door. He's knocking. Can I come in? And in disbelief, it's surreal. We're, questioning. It's almost unbelievable. Everything is happening exactly the way God said it would happen. Are you ready? Are you ready here today? Okay, I'm preaching to the choir. That's fine. I'm preaching to the choir. Everybody raises their hand. All right, well, let's just close in song. Wait a minute, not so fast. What about us as believers? And I speak for myself included. Are there things that we have tightened our grip on in this world that are sort of, maybe wrapping us up in the cares and the affairs of the things in this world? If that's you here today, I want to encourage you. Jesus is at the door. Jesus is at the door. Now, why do we have almost 1/3 of the Bible as prophecy? God answers that question for us in the Bible. He says, I'm going to tell you what happens before it happens, so when it happens, you'll know I am God. Okay, so let me see if so that's the litmus test, right? How am I going to know Well, God's going to tell us in some cases 2,500 years before it happens. So when it happens, 2,500 years later, we'll know He is God. Now, do you know that all Bible prophecy that has been fulfilled with 100% accuracy? I mean, it is uncanny to me. See, one of the enigmas, one of the puzzles to many Bible teachers and students of Bible prophecy has been, I cannot figure out how does the United States not get involved, and how come the United States is virtually absent from the final prophetic program? In other words, that was written before it happened, and now you and I, right before our very eyes, are witnessing it happening. What's happening? We're in trouble. We're in trouble. I think we have yet to see what's going to happen with this economic collapse. We talked about this a few weeks ago. The coming new world economic order, the new world monetary system, which the Bible describes that the Antichrist will control. Now, I wonder, is this God's way of saying, wake up? Wake up from your spiritual slumber. I told you before it happens, so that when it happens, you would know not only that I am God, but that I am at the door. I'm coming soon. I want you to be ready. I want you to be watching. I don't want you to be gripping on too tightly to things in this world. I told you these. Did this depress you? Does what you see taking place, does it scare you? It shouldn't, because I'd already told you that it was going to happen. So why does it surprise you when it happens? It shouldn't surprise you when it happens. It should encourage you when it happens. So, because when it happens, you'll know that your redemption draweth nigh. Luke recorded it. It's probably one of my favorite verses in all the Bible, especially as of late. Luke 21:28. Where Jesus says, when you see these things begin to come to pass, look up and lift up your head and know your redemption draweth nigh. It's beginning to come to pass. It is happening. And what we see now with a new president and subsequently a new prime minister is making it even more plausible for this to not only happen, but to happen now. In other words, now it can happen. Because again, Jesus said it needs to happen in order for the end to come. Oh, wait a minute. So this that we see, economic collapse, new leadership, Israel, the U.S., ambiguity, emboldened Iran, frightened Iraq. In other words, this needs to happen so that you can come. Bring it on. Make it happen. Go, God. Because I want you to come and I want you to take me home. I don't want to be here anymore. There's nothing for me here anymore. I don't know about you, but is there anything here that it's like, God, you can come anytime now. There's nothing here. Sure, there's a bitter sweetness because there's so many loved ones and family members and friends who don't yet know Christ, but let me encourage you with that as well. Do you know that after the rapture, and during the tribulation, there is going to be a multitude of people who are going to come to Christ. They won't be the bride, but they will be saved, and we call them tribulation saints. They're serving at the throne. The bride that's raptured up before the tribulation is seated on the throne. There is a distinction there. It's kind of interesting. This last week, we had our neighbors who are Buddhists. In fact, they have two kids, relatively close in age to my boys, who have been witnessing to him for the last 2.5 years since they've lived next door to us. One time it was so heartbreaking. Levi, bless his heart, I think he was 6 at the time, took his Bible and wanted to, and asked the older, girl, neighbor, can I share with you something in the Bible about God's love? And he was going to, read for her John 3:16. And she said, no, thank you, and got up and left. I was like, Levi comes crying into the house. Baba, She didn't want to hear about Jesus.